Mr. Chairman. Mr. Batt, you mentioned the difference between Melbourne and Denver in terms of throughput because you alluded to Aussies being a little more law-abiding or something. Tell me about that quickly. I mean, here's a question. I'm trying to figure this out in my head. So you get people at the ramps, you're increasing the throughput on the freeway, but at some point previously there were more people, you know, there must be some backup on the ramps, and I saw your little graph and there's a little bit of backup, but at some point the ramps are gonna get unmanageable also, right? I mean, how's that being handled?
Carefully, sir. Thank you, Representative DeFazio and Chairman Graves. As quickly as I can, I will say we use 2,000 vehicles per lane per hour is what an interstate lane will move. Mm-hmm. And when you start to get friction and you start to get that start-stop effect, you start to break down that number. And so the reason I made the comment about the Aussies is that they have incredibly high levels of compliance because they enforce traffic penalties a lot more punitively there. Two, they have photo enforcement, and they'll hold people for up to 4 minutes on that ramp. And I think that we might have different challenges if we tried to hold people for 4 minutes. That's why we reduced our expectation. And this is a pilot. It may not work. And if it doesn't, we've just added ramp meters that can coordinate with each other. But we think it's a valuable aspect. I know that California's looking at it. Arizona's also looking at intelligent ramp metering. So it's a new technology in the toolbox.
Mm-hmm. The start and stop on the freeway, I mean, you get the max. I mean, 2,000 is sort of optimized now, but if we had some future date autonomous vehicles, it might be a higher number because you would have.
Yeah, so when I was speaking with some folks in Europe, they said that the introduction of autonomous vehicles in Paris actually degrades the system because they don't deal well with the traffic circles. But once you get to 20% penetration, now performance improves. And so once we have vehicles talking to each other, autonomous vehicles out there, I've seen projections of using 4,000 vehicles per lane per hour. I talked to a leader from Contra Costa County who thought it might be 6,000.
No.
And so
they're going to be like 6 inches per bumper off.
Right, at that point, but you in some parts of the country, you're at peak road because if you can double the capacity of the highway because you can move more vehicles through it, you're just making a better, more efficient use of an asset.
How about urban congestion smart lights? One of my nephews who's an engineer, one of his friends has had a system used in Nevada, and now it's being tested somewhere in Virginia on crowdsourcing traffic lights. So that you're not sitting at a traffic light and you're sitting there, and there's like no one coming the other way, but you're sitting there because it's a red light. I mean, has anyone deployed a system that you're aware of that works well for that, Mr. Awasaki?
Congressman DeFazio, there is a company in Marin County called RMS. They're looking at adaptive signals because that was the second most complaint that we got as we gathered information about to update our countywide transportation plan is people are tired of sitting at a stoplight when nobody else is around. Technology today ought to be able to let you go. And so the idea is adaptive ramp metering based on mainline flows of your freeway, hold a delay back. It's no different at a traffic signal. The problem is coordinating a queue of traffic through that during peak hour. It's off-peak that drives people nuts.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So there's a company working on that now.
Okay, good.
We want to deploy that
I'll have to follow up with them. Ms. Castillo, I represent a very large district, so I have a lot of rural challenges, and I'm impressed with your system. But what's it costing you per ride?
Currently, it costs an average of about $16 per ride, and we charge $2, so we're supplementing 14 of it.
Okay. And what do you project if you could move to an autonomous system? How much would that change?
So we have, even though we're in rural communities, we have some universities or some colleges, they're not universities, they're colleges, that are in those. And they have a lot of foreign students that come, and foreign students are usually used to very good public transportation. And so in college, it would be great to have, I mean, I could see like an autonomous vehicle allowing us to be able to serve them in a lot better way than what we're doing now. And I think we are starting to look at, typically in the rural systems, a lot of services provide door-to-door service, much like a paratransit service. And so autonomous vehicles would allow us to do more shuttle-type services so that it would be less expensive, because it's very expensive. Like you said, when you're doing paratransit, those costs are much higher. And so I do think that there's great opportunities in the rural communities to use autonomous vehicles for just change the look of what transportation looks like, but still get people where they need to go.
Okay, thank you. My time's expired. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Duncan.